Hello. I have waited until my household has gone to sleep during this COVID-19 quarantine to tell my weight loss story to the wellness page group because it might be interesting and might be helpful to someone out there. Many people may know this story already, and so if you do, you can go do something else with your time. But if you'd like, I welcome you to stay with me for a few moments and I will tell you how my life changed about 15 years ago now. So when I was 34, 16 years ago, I had had 3 babies in 5 years, and I had actually had 4 pregnancies. And I had been nursing or having a baby for 5 years, and my youngest had finally weaned, and it was time for me to go do a little undergarment shopping. And so off I went to Lord & Taylor. Back then, it was a reputable place to go and get some new undergarments. And I walked into one of the dressing rooms, and dressing rooms don't have great lighting, and they have those ridiculous 360 mirrors where when you look in, you don't only see yourself from every angle, you see yourself going on and on and on and on and on forever. So I walked in with my selection of things to try on, and seeing as they were undergarments, I had to get quite undressed. And I bent over to pick up something to try on, and when I looked up, I looked in the mirror and I yelled. And I yelled because I was so shocked. I thought somebody else had come into the dressing room with me, also naked. And I quickly realized that indeed it was not someone else, it was me. And I'd been so preoccupied with having babies and nursing babies and caring for babies, they had not really taken a good look at myself. And during that time, over the course of 4 pregnancies, 3 births, I had gained 75 pounds. I had gone from being 135 pounds to over 215 pounds, not pregnant. Now, I am not giving you my weights to say that anyone should be a certain weight or that even I should be a certain weight, but I was not feeling healthy, I was not feeling well, and I did not like what I saw in the mirror. So the overwhelming feeling I had was of disgust. I felt shamed and I felt disgusted. I did not like what I was seeing, and I noticed in the mirror that my lips started to quiver and my shoulders started to shake and tears started to well up in my eyes, and I was very, very sad. And in that moment, I had an epiphany, and I knew that I had a choice to make. I could hate myself skinny and undereat and overexercise and lose the weight, and I would probably end up right back where I was because it was going to come from a place of disgust and shame. Or I could love myself healthy by feeding myself well and moving in ways that empowered me and made me feel good. But I knew also in that moment that the problem was that I didn't love myself, and the evidence was in front of me. Now, I am not saying that overweight people don't love themselves. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I did not love myself. I was not taking care of myself in any way. It was more than I had just gained some weight. I had stopped taking care of myself on every level. But that's how I knew that I could do it. Because while I did not love myself and I was not taking care of myself on any level, I was taking really good care of 3 little kids. I made sure that they got exercise every day. I made sure that they ate really good food. I made sure that they made social connections. and that they were learning and challenging themselves every day. I made sure they had clean water. I was taking great care of these kids, so I knew I had it in me. The problem was, how did I make that connection from I know how to take care of my kids really well, and I do that because I love them so much, and I don't love myself, so how do I turn that on me? And that is when I stumbled upon what for me was a life-changing awareness, was that I could act as if, and that the feelings would come. So I left that night and I went home, and I woke up the next morning, and the first thought in my head was, if I loved myself, what would I do? And that was the beginning of a complete life change for me. It took me 3 years to lose the weight, so this was not a quick thing. I started at Curves. Those of you who are in your 40s and 50s like me, 60s, you will remember Curves. I started there, and they were wonderful and supportive and sweet to me, and I started with the exercise circuit, and as I got stronger, I went back to running, which was something I had loved doing, but it was more than the exercise. I was also nourishing myself in body, mind, and spirit. I started taking a look at my social connections and making sure that the relationships I was involved in were good for me. Now, that doesn't mean that every single, friendship was perfect, but I started looking out for in my best interest. And I stopped with the guilt that I had to take care of everyone else before me. I loved that wonderful analogy of being on the plane, right? And if the plane is going down and the oxygen masks drop, or the pressure changes, right? The stewardess always tells you, put the mask on yourself first and then on the others. Why? Because if you lose consciousness, you're not good to anybody. So they want you to take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. And that's what I had to learn. And I also believed that children will take in what they see a lot more than what they hear. And I wanted my children, particularly my daughters, to grow up and put themselves first. Because I knew that if they went down the same path I went down and had children, that they would be tempted, unless our society changes a whole lot between then and pretty soon when they'll be that age, and my son as well, would be tempted to really put their children first, and then they would be just as exhausted and just as uncared for as I was when they were little. So I left the guilt at the door. I left the shame at the door. And it took a long time to change that process. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning to have compassion on myself. I'm still learning to love myself just as I am. Now that I'm in menopause, wow, that's a whole nother speech. We'll talk about that sometime in the future. But wow, are things changing? And I challenged myself a few months ago to stop saying negative things to myself in my head. Things like, wow, that's quite a wrinkle on your forehead, or gee, kid, everything's moving south, or just, they're sarcastic, they're meant in jest, but that's the problem with sarcasm, is there's a little bit of truth in there. And so I stopped. The way that I stopped was really interesting, and that will be another video. I will share that with you because it really worked well for me. But that is just the basic outline. And from that 75-pound weight loss, I then became a personal trainer. I started teaching spinning classes. I became a wellness director, and this has become my life. And now I am passionate about making sure that I have the means and the opportunity to support folks in finding their path to their best version of themselves, which is going to look different for everybody. where I feel great and healthy and wonderful and energetic and taken care of and in love with myself, maybe a very different place than where somebody else does. But I think you can find that. And the way to start is to act as if you love yourself. If you don't, act as if. And if you do, stop hiding it under a bushel. Let that little light shine of self-love and don't let anybody blow it out. Happy Self-Care Sunday.